Today my guest on Hello Darling is Alicia Curtis, Perth-based entrepreneur, businesswoman, mother of two, professional speaker and natural-born leader. Alicia is the founder of 100 Women and Elysium, as well as being a published author. This year, Alicia was the recipient of the 2018 Momentum Wonder Woman Award. Let me remind our viewers of the criteria for this award. Who is a Wonder Woman? A woman who believes in wonders and makes them happen. One who makes impossible possible. One who inspires, teaches, and believes in justice. One who kicks like a woman to achieve her goals. Hello, darling, and welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
How does it feel being a Wonder Woman of the Year?
Well, I must admit, I just think it's the most wonderful award, a Wonder Woman. So I'm very happy to be the recipient and be involved in your wonderful event.
Thank you, Alicia. Alicia, you have been described as WA's most inspiring social and business entrepreneur. And you have also been recipient of several awards. Can you name a few today?
Oh, I've been very lucky to be the recipient of a few awards. I suppose a couple of them are the 100 Women of Influence and the 200 Businesses of Tomorrow. Right back when I was a teenager, I was very fortunate to receive the WA Australian of the Year in the Environment category and Young Person of the Year in the Environment category. So, awards are really important to recognise the work that people do. A lot of the time you get so focused in the doing that the awards are actually a great way of stepping back and reflecting on the wonderful achievements that not only you are involved with, but the people around you. And the Wonder Woman Award, in fact, really gave me a great opportunity to think about all the women who are in my life that contribute to what I get to do every day.
That's right. We all Wonder Women, but we can only nominate one a year.
Yeah.
Alicia, I read that one of your favorite quotes is by Anne Frank.
Well, it's about understanding that we all have the ability to make change, and nobody actually can hold us back from that. It's actually our choice to believe that we can be change makers in the world.
But the quote goes like this: how wonderful is that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you certainly didn't wait long. Alicia, that's where I'm coming from. You started very, very young. Please tell our viewers your journey when you were 12 years old.
Yeah, so it did start early, and it was really driven by volunteering in my community. So it's something that I encourage every young person, every person to get involved with. Volunteering gives you a great sense of what needs to be changed in our world, and it also gives you that sense that you can actually make a difference as well. So at 12, I was involved in my local environment club in my high school, in my primary school. And from there, that gave me a wonderful opportunity to attend an international children's conference on the
London.
Environment. Yep, exactly.
And tell us what happened then.
So that was the first time the United Nations had put together a conference for kids to share what they wanted to create for their environment. So there were 800 kids from 90 different countries. Now, I was just a dorky little kid from Bullsbrook who lived an hour out of Perth, lived on a 5-acre farm, hobby farm, and all of a sudden I was flying to England to attend this international children's conference. It really was a catalyst in my life. It showed me I got to listen to stories from kids all around the world around the change that they were creating. So it inspired me to create even more so once I got back to Perth. And yeah, it was a catalyst. So the couple of other kids that I met at that International Children's Conference who came from Perth,
yes,
we joined forces,
yes,
and we decided, well, we've been given this amazing opportunity to attend this conference. What are we going to do to give back because of that opportunity? And so we thought, why not have a kids conference here in Perth,
Perfect. And what did you call it?
Kids Helping Kids.
Okay,
Yes.
Wonderful. So how many conferences did you have then?
Well, our first conference took 13 months to organise. You can imagine it, 4 12-year-olds sitting around a table deciding to run their own conference.
Fantastic, fantastic.
You know, we didn't have all the things that I think adults think about that holds us back. You know,
That's
they
right.
think that you need big networks, that you need a lot of money, you know, behind you, that you need to know everything. Actually, you don't. You actually just need a group of people who are committed and persist and have a vision for the future. And that's what we had.
Yes.
And, you know, many years later now, that those conferences still exist, and kids everywhere around Perth are getting involved in Millennium Kids, which is the organisation it turned into, to create change in their local community.
Beautiful. You have created several leadership programs, yes? How did your leadership journey begin?
Well, I think, you know, coming from that conference, you know, running those Kids Helping Kids conferences, by the time I was 15, I'd run 3 different conferences for kids. I was getting more and more involved about how young people get involved in community and decision-making processes. So when I left high school, I was very passionate about sharing this with other young people. So I went to university but started my own business as well. And this was back in a time where it wasn't as common that young people were starting their own businesses, especially as speakers and trainers. So I really had to forge a different pathway. But volunteering has always been the basis of my leadership, getting involved in community, contributing to people and to causes that are less fortunate than I, and then being able to see how can I contribute my greatest strengths in greatest service to the world. So that's the basis of my leadership.
So that was what inspired you to set up your own business at 19?
Yes,
Or what inspired you really?
I suppose it was that, and when I was supposed to be reading my textbooks at university, I was reading a biography of the founder of The Body Shop, Anita Roddick. I read her book, and she really was a pioneer for how business could be used as a force of, you know, good in the world, a force of positive change. And so I was so inspired by her book, and it started to give me this sense of, well, what if I could set up a business that actually allowed young people to realise that the power that they have to volunteer and lead in their community, while doing that through the mechanism of a business. And so that's what first inspired me, or first gave me the idea to maybe business was a pathway for me.
And the name of your business?
Elysium.
Still the same, correct?
Yes.
Still
yeah.
Elysium?
Yes.
Founded when you were 19?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, it's not long ago in your age, but the name continues, yes?
Yeah, so that was a mix between my own name and the word Lyceum, which was really education but with social focus or a purpose behind that. And that's what my business is about.
And now you are also a published author.
Yes.
Tell us about your book, your first book.
Yes, so 2 years ago I published Difference Makers with Dr. Nikki Howe, and basically that book describes the journey that we went through to create the Emerging Leaders in Governance program. So it's all about how do we encourage diversity on boards? How do leaders champion diversity on boards? So we talked about the research that's out there about how much diversity can actually improve the outcomes of business. So it's not just a social justice issue, which is very important, but it's also contributing to the economic outcomes of our organisations and our communities. So diversity gives us this depth of perspective. And today in the boardrooms in particular, we're dealing with really complex challenges, and we need that diversity around the table, that diversity of thinking around the table that's going to help us excel. So we shared our story, which, talking about diversity on boards, many people 5 years ago thought we were crazy to think about bringing younger voices into the boardroom. So it's definitely been a journey of ups and downs, but now, that program has a collective of 40 different organisations involved. So we're starting to see a real shift of understanding that diversity is important,
yes,
and in the boardroom that actually diversity in its broadest perspective of age, gender,
Yes.
culture, and even some of the invisible differences between us can actually be really beneficial in the boardroom.
I have an idea. It should be under a motto, let's make the boardroom not a boring room. Yeah?
Yes,
Let's
exactly.
introduce ideas and correct
absolutely.
and new walks of lives. Alicia, when and was there a moment in your life when you thought, I need to make a change in the world? I mean, the question is almost rhetoric now, but when was it so evident when the moment came?
Oh, I think it did happen back at that International Children's Conference when I was able to see a number of role models around me and see what change could be made. And I think it's having those mentors throughout your lifetime that actually allow you to foster that, because unfortunately, in this day and age, there's plenty of people who will tell you, no, you can't do this, that they're knocking your ideas, and to think that, everybody's going to be encouraging of you. I think sometimes you look at your role models and you think, oh my gosh, it must have been easy for them. They must have believed in themselves from the very beginning.
Yes.
But we all go through those ups and downs, absolutely. And so keeping that hope is really important, hope that you can make change, because sometimes the issues are overwhelming. We think, what can I do to make this change?
That's right.
But I think if we start very small, we don't have to save the world tomorrow, but what's one little thing that I can
Yes.
work on? And that's always worked well for me. Start really small, but it's amazing how big these things turn
But
into.
continue. Tell us about 100 Women. How did 100 Women start?
Well, that's an example of just starting small.
Yes.
This one idea that I'm sure, I read this book, Half the Sky.
Yeah.
It's an amazing book. It
Little
really,
bit, tell us about the book. I know, but the viewers.
Absolutely. It really outlines the discrimination that women still face around the world. And I've been a passionate advocate for women, especially in that leadership space, for many years. But I read this book and it shows the discrimination or the challenges women still have to finding, accessing services around health, education, economic freedom and job roles and safety. And we sometimes go, oh, well, it's in other places around the world. It's not in Australia, but it actually is here
That's
in Australia too. So I had this passion for women. I read this book and I knew I wanted to create some sort of change in this area. I didn't want to set up a service delivery organisation because I knew that there were plenty of organisations out there doing great work in this area.
Yeah.
But what they needed was funding. They needed money. There wasn't a lot of pools or funds that were focused in on women's issues. And so I thought to myself, I wonder if I knew 100 women who'd just give $100 a month to support causes that inspire and empower women to be able to access those areas of health and education and jobs and safety. And so, like any good best friend, we were having this conversation in the car on a bit of a road trip about ideas to change the world.
Incredible.
So I'd sat on this idea for a while. I told my best friend in the car one day, and she just said, I love this idea. It's so simple. Let's just do it. And it just shows you this broader leadership discussion. Sometimes you're the person that has the idea, but sometimes you're the friend who hears the idea and says, yes, let's do it. So
Incredible.
That's how it started nearly 5 years ago now, and it's just been amazing to see the journey unfold through different women getting involved and contributing, volunteering, either giving their time or their money to support what we've been creating.
How wonderful. How much did you raise to date with 100 Women initiative in terms of financial donations?
Yeah, absolutely. Nearly 400,000 in our last 4 years.
Wonderful.
And really it's about being able to ignite women as philanthropists.
Yes.
Being okay to sort of step forward and say, yes, we want to be involved in philanthropy.
Beautiful.
Because sometimes it's not often the women that get highlighted in the philanthropic circles. but then also saying, well, this is important for us to put the money to causes that support other women as well.
Absolutely. You said once, you don't have to be rich to be a philanthropist, correct?
Absolutely. Well, I'm a good example of that. You know, partway through my career, I'm definitely, you know, not rich myself. I'm not famous, but we often get this.
You Wonder Woman, Alicia.
Well, with your help, hopefully spread the word.
Thank you. It was just a humble joke. Alicia, so obviously, why is giving back so important to you?
Yeah, look, you know, it's been something that's been a value for me in my life. I feel like giving gives you so much. It's really, you know, I think sometimes giving becomes this to-do list for people. Like, oh, I've got to, you know, put time and effort into it.
Yes.
But actually, people who are, you know, very experienced in giving, volunteering their time, they realise that you actually get so much more in return. You give, it gives you purpose in life. And I think in today's society, we can get wrapped up in the fame and fortune, and we think that that's going to give us meaning in our lives. But in fact, you know, giving at its most basic level can really help drive and connect people to a real purpose, a deeper purpose that's going to...
So how would you describe Giving Circle? What's Giving Circle?
Yeah, it's a new trend in philanthropy. It's sometimes not well known here in Australia. So a Giving Circle is a group of people who have committed to giving an amount of money every year to a fund. So we all contribute to our fund, and then we get to choose where that money goes. So in a Giving Circle, you get an opportunity to, you know, cast your vote around where the money is given. So with 100 Women, we have a grants committee that actually goes through the grant making process. We get 50 to 60 applications every year for our funding, so there is a huge need,
of course,
for money for women's causes, and the grant subcommittee works very hard over a number of months to go through all of those projects, ask the hard questions, do the due diligence, shortlist it down and down and down until we have 5, 6, 7 organisations that are put towards all our members.
Yes.
All our members then get to read, they do their own research, they get to hear about the amazing organisations that are making change in our community, and then they cast their vote as to where the money will go. So every year we've given away 2, 3 grants. Last year we gave away 4, and it's wonderful to see the impact of those grants now over a number of years.
Beautiful. Alicia, how do you balance your motherhood and your incredibly intense career, being mother, of course?
Yeah, it's definitely a juggle. I'm not going to lie or polish
you make wonders.
You know, it's hard work balancing family, your work, which is meaningful to you, your own self-care, giving back to the community. But I think it starts with having some conversations at home and really understanding what that balance is going to look like. And as women, we've got to have those courageous conversations with our husbands, our partners, our families, and I'm very fortunate to have, you know, a husband and a family who are very encouraging of what I do and really support what I do, and I wouldn't be able to do it without their support.
How young is not too young to teach the young ones that it's good to give back?
Oh, I think you should start from the very beginning,
yes.
You know, and it's just those small things, those small moments of conversation that you have with your kids.
Do you teach your daughter?
Absolutely.
Is she very aware of your incredible
absolutely,
yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
You know, and I want to hear what she has to say about the world, because it's not about me sharing what I think is important.
Yes.
I want her, you know, her volunteering, her giving to be based on what she finds important. What's the fire in her belly? And I look forward to fostering that in my daughter and my son.
Beautiful, your children. Do you think schools should adopt or introduce, if they not yet, a giving back programs?
Absolutely.
To give another meaning to young people's lives? Would you stand for it? Would you write one? I mean, that's what you do?
Absolutely. And many of my leadership programs that, you know, when I first started my business were based in schools, and it was through experiential learning that we learn about leadership. So it was about this journey of talking with young people, what were the issues that were important to them, and then getting them to do something positive around those, and realizing that they didn't have to wait until they were
Yes.
older, that they could do something now.
Beautiful.
And working with those people who are maybe not seen as the likely leaders.
Yeah.
I love working with those unlikely leaders.
Yes, of course.
Because we all have the potential to lead. It's all within us, and there are things that are important to us, but having a mentor who believes in you and say, yeah, sure, go for it. Here's how we do it, and walking them through is quite important.
Alicia, in a short words, what would be your advice for young women, people watching today, having aspirations and not being sure how to go forward with it?
Yeah, it's such a hard world that we live in. There's 24-hour media that highlights the good stories and the bad. So
Yeah.
it can sometimes feel like you can't make change.
Yeah.
But I think for the advice that I would give is get to know what you are really good at. Work from your strength areas. We all have things that we are good at. You're not going to be good at everything, but there are going to be things that you are good at. So hone in on that and become really good at those things. Be brave. Be courageous.
Just do it.
Just get out there and ask those questions. Ask people to mentor you. Share your ideas. Ask people to support them. They can only say no, and there's no harm
If you
in
don't
that.
ask, exactly.
Absolutely. So get
Alicia-
out there and try.
Alicia, where do you see Alicia in 10 years' time?
Well, I am a big optimist for the future, so I always try and dream big. I always try and give myself big challenges. So I really want to take my leadership work globally. I want to have that global impact now. I've worked with over 20,000 people in Perth over the last 15 years. So I want to utilise the mechanisms of online and community to build a community of global change makers now who want to step up in their leadership. So that business-wise, that's my goal. 100 women, I would love to see it continue to build nationally and internationally. I think we've got capacity here in Perth to build it even bigger. I'd love to see how women can join together and really create the ripples of change by just everybody giving a small amount and pulling it together and seeing what we can create every year through our grants.
Beautiful. 100 women each year, 10 times. In 10 years, you will have million women
Absolutely, and why not?
giving back, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we have the capacity here in Perth and Australia to be able to create a network of givers like that, and to show that women can be exceptional, powerful philanthropists that guide and put money to where the causes that are important to us.
Alicia, if you had a magic wand, what would you wish for in the world?
What would I wish for? I would wish for people to be treated with respect. Through a lot of my leadership programs, those unlikely leaders, I get to hear many different stories, and some of those are heartbreaking. And I think it comes back to us treating people who are different from each other with respect and care and a sense of belonging. In Australia, we live in a very multicultural society, but do we really take up the opportunity to bring people's differences in and treat them with love and respect? I think that's got to be the basis of many of the challenges that we have. So, having those conversations with people that are different from you and hear their experiences, hear their stories. There's so much richness that we can learn from each other.
Alicia, I could talk with you forever. However, as a Wonder Woman, I have to let you go because you have to make more wonders happen, yes?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you for everything that you've done and you're doing to help others.
And you too. Thank you for being a wonderful role model.
Thanks, Alicia. Thanks so much.